Up to 8 players could be coming in at West Ham this summer. My word, what a couple of days in the West Ham world. And it's not really going to stop there. We heard all the news with Lopetegui coming in. We heard the news about Paquetá. We don't know what the situation was with that. People are guesstimating that maybe West Ham will be impacted in the transfer market. But what we do fail to realise is that we don't necessarily need a war chest of money anymore, because we have a full new scouting system in place. And that full new scouting system will be looking at the best talent for the best value, and we can make that money stretch as far as we can. So we will have had a budget in line before we would have even considered selling our main star, Marcus Paquetá, or one of our main stars. And I expect more money incoming from some of the other outgoings at West Ham moving forward. So I think we'll have a reasonable amount of money to work with for Tim Steidten to go and do his work on. Plus, he's done his due diligence. He's going to be looking at some of the best talent from all over Europe, sometimes even in those leagues below the top 5, you could say, Italian, German, French, English, and Spanish, and looking away from them and looking at all the other leagues around the world to see what best talent you can bring in to try and gel this team together. Now, under Lopetegui's guidance as head coach at West Ham are now looking to try and progress, if we can, from the position we've been left in. And I think it's a good appointment by West Ham. I'm happy about it. But the rumours were a while ago that West Ham could lose up to 8 players. But now it's coming out quite clearly that West Ham could be looking to replace those 8 by bringing a further 8 in to the club. So we're going to take a little brief look and talk about what positions we need to look at and potentially what sort of players we need to look at with regards to the 8 players potentially. So yesterday, Jacob Steinberg, who we all know is a good friend of David Sullivan, spoke out and said that West Ham are looking really, in theory, to look to sign 2 central defenders, a right back, a midfielder, a right-footed left winger, a third choice keeper, and a striker this summer. Minimum. I've put an 8th in there because I think there will be an 8th player, depending on what options the West Ham come to. But that is supposedly the route we're looking at doing. Now, we're hearing that Nathan Trott could be heading out. So we'll start with the goalkeeper. We could be hearing that Nathan Trott could be heading out of West Ham. And I don't know what the situation is with Joseph Nang. We've also got another lot of crop of youngsters who are goalkeepers who are looking really good coming up. So it'll be interesting to see what we do. And if we are looking at a third choice keeper, the one I don't want West Ham to go for, but we'll back if he comes in, is Fotheringham of Sheffield United. However, he does have a lot of experience. He obviously is a reasonably good goalkeeper, especially at championship level, not so much necessarily at the Premier League. And also, at the end of the day, I always felt like he was a bit shaky, but that could be a reasonable option with Premier League experience to bring in and be the third choice. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in there. We've spoken about the central defenders this morning. We spoke about Max Kilman from Wolves. They could be requesting up to £45 million for the player, and we are going to have to spend some money, some reasonable chunks of money to get some quality in. What we've got there is a Premier League captain who has got a lot of Premier League experience and has played under Lopetegui before when he was at Wolves. So that could be a very good decision made by West Ham to bring someone like Max Kilman in. The next player we spoke about was Greaves from Hull City, quality player, left-footed centre-back, calm on the ball, collective, really nice championship, homegrown talent player as well, meets the homegrown quota for the Premier League. So that would be a potential second signing as a centre-back. And these are not dead certs. I'm just giving you a rough idea of where they are looking at now. Fabrizio Bruno, who currently plays for Flamengo, is another player that West Ham are literally borderline got a deal on the table for. Now, he is supposedly missing the game for Flamengo today, and he is in process of potentially signing the contract with West Ham. He is another centre-back, 6'4". These 3 players I've just mentioned to you there, all 6'4", and that's the rebrand of our defence. That's just giving you a slight taste of potentially what you could expect coming in. Now, looking at some other players that we are interested in, if we look to our forward line, Wesley Gustavo from Corinthians, it looks like we've been doing our homework on the 19-year-old for a while. He's making a big impression in Brazil. since bursting into the scene back in April of 2022. And it's been reported earlier this month by Evening Standard that we've opened talks with Gustavo, who's valued in the region of £26 million. But West Ham are hoping to strike a deal around about £15 million for the player. Now, Gustavo has got a lot of competition for his signature. Apparently, Liverpool, Fulham, Everton, Atletico Madrid, Real Betis are amongst the clubs looking for this winger. But he could fit that criteria of a right-footed left winger. And he could be one of the most exciting prospects in and around Brazil, obviously with West Ham getting their scouting network in work in that place there. In terms of moving further forward, Youssef En-Nesyri, I spoke about it yesterday. It may have gone missing the video because we had so much other things to talk about. I said that West Ham are trying to shortlist some of their strikers. En-Nesyri's been a long-term target of West Ham, and they could look to step up a pursuit in the striker. Apparently, we could try and nail him for about 20 million quid. I think Sevilla are open to offers because I think they need to generate some income. He is only 26 years old and he is scoring goals still, but he feels like a striker that is probably at the tail end of his career because he's been linked to West Ham for many a year. But this could make for interesting battle of the signature for players going forward. Guirassy from Stuttgart, an exciting prospect. He's a little bit older, 28, but he is banging in goals for Stuttgart. And people always say, like, if you are playing Champions League football in Germany and then a Premier League club comes to you, why would you leave? But there's a lot of players that do leave, and there has been many examples of that over their careers. So he could be also another player coming in. West Ham are still interested in Boniface. Again, I know the German champions, they've got Champions League football next year, but it depends on the project that they foresee happening. And Bayer Leverkusen, as much as they have been unbelievable this year, they are going to have to maintain those standards. And I just have a little sneaky suspicion they're going to struggle next year. Not relegation, just not be as dominant and a force as what they were this year. Due to the nature of the size of the squad, the quality of player that they've got, etc., etc. So that is one of those other players we could be looking at. On top of that, you've got Ademola Lookman. Of course, we knew him from his time in Fulham. He scored a hat-trick for the Europa League finalists and winners, Atalanta. And he's been mentioned as a possibility on the left wing, but that would be probably few and far between because I think scoring that hat-trick and being such a vital person for them is also going to cost a fortune to try and bring in. Coventry's Callum O'Hare as an option, Sporting Lisbon's Marcus Edwards. These are all the names that we're talking about, and on top of that, we've also apparently been offered the chance to sign Armando Broja as well. So who went out on loan to Fulham last year, never really hit the ground running, and possibly was a blessing in disguise that West Ham didn't get him, but it's whether or not Lopetegui fancies the situation. And Lopetegui has brought new backroom staff in with him, and he's going to consult a lot with the technical director, Tim Steidten, on transfers. But the one thing I will say is, and I've got to say it again, when you look at his statement, which is, we had other opportunities, but I'm very happy that West Ham chose me because I chose West Ham too, is a big, bold statement. And we knew that before he even came in. We knew he had other options on the table, but he wanted to come and he believed in the project. And I genuinely think that is a lot down to Tim Steidten. So I expect players to head out the door. I expect players to come in the door. I expect to see a bit of an overhaul within reason. I think there's going to be a reasonable core staying at West Ham. We could be looking at getting rid of Zuma. We could be looking at getting rid of Aguerd, but we definitely need some fresh blood, and blood that's going to come in and try and hit the ground running as we possibly can. And as long as West Ham do our business nice and early, that is the key. The key is do the business early, get them used to the preseason together, and progress as a unit. Join me later on for the Hammers headlines. Go and check out the video I did earlier on, and Max Kilman and Greaves from Hull City. And there will be lots of stuff coming your way. Take it easy and come on your hands.